And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, Ryan Metzler here, and today we're going to be taking a look at probably one of my favorite card games, Race for the Galaxy. And this is a game for 2 to 4 players that plays in about 30 to 60 minutes, and what you hear about it a lot is that the iconography is really hard to understand. So hopefully in this video I'll be able to give you a chance to see that iconography, see how the game plays, and decide if it's something for you. So now that I've said that, let's take a look at what's inside the box, exactly how the game plays, and what my thoughts are on it after we've seen all of that. So despite what you might have heard about Race for the Galaxy, the game's really not that complex, and it gets a bad rep oftentimes because of the iconography you need to understand in order to play the game. But really this is a game about space exploration and settling. And in that vein, everybody's going to start with a starting planet, and all starting planets look like this. Any planet is represented by a circle in its upper left-hand corner. And so this is a regular planet called Epsilon Iridian. You can see that it costs 2 to settle, which is the 2 in the middle of this circle here, and then it's worth 1 VP at the end of the game. Also along this card, you can see that there are stages labeled 1 through 4. And anything that's next to these stages will provide a benefit in that stage. For example, Epsilon Iridian provides you +1 military, which is what the red around the circle means, during Phase 3, which is settle, and I'll go over those in a moment. Additionally, during Stage 4, which is trading, it allows you to trade in 1 good from a planet for 1 victory point and 1 card. And you can see there are other planets like this. This is another starting planet, Alpha Centauri, which is what's called a windfall planet, which is indicated by this halo around it. And that means that when this planet comes into play, it's going to come in with a good on it. And anytime there's a good on a planet, you'll simply have an upside-down card to represent that good. Also, during this settle phase, settling any regular brown planet is where it costs you 1 less, and settling a military planet costs you 1 less military as well, or you have +1 military towards settling brown military planets. And then, Earth's Lost Colony. This is the 3rd type of planet. This is just a regular production planet. It produces blue goods. It has a trade-in ability, trading 1 card for victory point, and then during the produce phase, which is Phase 5, it's going to produce a good. And again, if it were to produce, a card would go on top of it. And then finally, we have military planets. And again, I showed you earlier that some cards give a bonus to military. For example, this one actually gives you a bonus to military, as well as being a military planet. And in order to settle military planets, you'll need to have a military equaling their value during the settling phase. So, at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 1 of these, and you're going to shuffle them and deal them out. And let's say, 1 player got this one, and 1 player got this one. And so that's somewhat irrelevant right now, but these are the starting planets for those players. And they may give you an indicator as to how you want to play your game. Additionally, each player is going to have a hand of cards, and this is how players are going to take their actions. And each game, a player is going to choose 1 of these cards each round in order to choose what phase they want. And there's actually a different setup for a 2-player advanced game, but we're not going to cover that here. We just want to go into the basics. And players are going to have choices as to what to do each round. And each of these cards that they choose is going to cause a certain phase to happen. So you'll see that there's Phase 1, Explore. And there's another choice for Phase 1, and I'll go into that in a moment. Phase 2 is Develop, which is going to allow you to build development cards. Phase 3 is Settle, which is going to allow you to play planets into play. Phase 4 is Consume, which will either get you more victory points or allow you to trade cards in for more cards. And Phase 5 is Produce, which will put goods on those planets like I showed you earlier. And each of these, when you choose it as an action, is going to have a benefit. So for example, if you choose to Explore, you're going to get to draw 2 cards plus an additional 5. And you'll keep 1 of these cards. Whereas everybody else who explores, maybe they haven't played this card, the action will still happen, but they won't get any of the benefits. So they'll just get to draw 2 cards and keep 1 without the +5 bonus. If you chose the other Explorer, and let's say you're the only one to do so, you would actually draw 2 +1 cards, so you'd draw 3 cards and you'd keep 2 of them. But anybody else who didn't choose Explorer would simply get to draw 2 cards and keep 1, ignoring all the reds. If you chose to Develop, you can play any developments at -1 cost, and cost is always going to be in the form of discarding cards. Anybody else who wants to develop may do so, but if they didn't play the develop card, they won't get the benefit. Settling allows you to settle a card. It has to be a planet, obviously, and that's indicated here. And when you settle, you either have to discard cards equal to the cost of that settlement. So for example, the cost of this one would be 3 cards. Or you have to have military greater than or equal to the red planet. So you can see here it shows black or red. And so for example, I would need 2 military in order to settle this planet. After you do so, if you were the one who chose the settle card, you would get to draw a card. During consume, you're going to actually be getting rid of goods off of your planets that have produced goods. And so if you have a good on there, you can use any of your consume abilities in order to get goods. And this one, if you choose this one, actually gets you double victory points for doing so. So whoever plays this card when they consume their goods is going to get twice as many victory points as the card that they're consuming with tells them to. Whereas if they chose the other one, they would first be able to trade in one of their goods, depending on what type of planet it's on, for more cards into their hand, and then they would use all of their other consume abilities for the normal victory points or benefits. Finally, we have produce, and producing is just going to allow you to put goods onto your production planets, and then if you have any of those windfall planets like I told you about earlier, you would be able to place 1 good on a windfall planet. So, each round, every player is going to pick one of these cards, and so let's say green picks number 2, and yellow picks, just for fun, they're going to pick number 1. And so after everyone is picked, they're going to reveal their cards, and the cards that are revealed are going to dictate the only phases that happen each round. So in this case, only phases 1 and 2 are going to happen. And settle, consume, and produce would not happen this round. And the phases are going to happen in order. So first, the yellow player would draw 7 cards, and they would get to keep 1. Whereas the green player who didn't play Explorer still gets to draw 2 and only keeps 1. So they'd go through and they'd draw from the pile, and yellow would draw 7 cards and they'd keep 1 of them, and then green would draw 2 cards and keep 1 of them. And that would be the end of the Explore phase. Then we'd move on to the Develop phase. And everybody's going to have a hand of cards. So let's say, for example, this is my hand of cards. I have these cards here. And I'm green, I've played Develop. So I can develop 1 card at -1 cost. So we look at these, and I have all these developments here. Let's say I want to develop the terraforming robots. It has a cost to develop of 3. So I can develop this card for 2 now because I played the develop card. I can pay 1 less. And to do this, I'm simply going to discard 2 cards from my hand. Remember, it would be 3, but I have a reduction. I'm going to discard those 2 cards, and this would go and play in front of me. And that's going to provide me with 2 victory points, and at the end of and during the game, it's going to provide me with certain benefits. So you can see that during phase 3, anytime I settle, I get to draw an extra card. And during phase 4, I can trade a brown good to this card for 1 victory point and 1 card. And so the whole idea is to build up mechanics that are going to allow you to best earn victory points as quickly as possible. You're going to go through these steps over and over again, choosing cards, playing out the actions, and then bringing all those cards back into your hand, choosing more cards, playing out the actions, and so forth and so on, until either one of 2 things happens. The first is that all of the victory points pre-designated to be in the game run out, and there are going to be 12 of these per player. You can see that these are 1 victory point chips, and that these are 5 victory point chips. Or sorry, these are the 10s. There should be 5s out there, but these are the 10s. And until, when those run out, the game will end. Alternatively, there is another way for the game to end, and that is if any player ever has 12 cards out in front of them. So you can see right now this player has 1 card out, but as the game continues, they'd be playing more and more cards, and once the 12th card is played, that's going to be the last card played for the round, and that's going to be the last card played in the game, except for any cards that your opponent may play for the remainder of that turn. At the end of the turn, the game ends, and you're going to count up victory points. And what you're going to count up is all of the victory points in the top here in these little hexagons, so that would be worth 2, plus any of these tokens you have, plus benefits from any special cards which you might have. Special cards often take the form of 6 cost developments with a variable amount of victory points awarded at the end of the game. And they generally want you to focus on one way of earning points. So for example, this one gives you 2 points for every rebel military world that you have in play. So it would be red-filled planets with a red border give you 2 victory points at the end of the game. Additionally, every other military world, which is just red bordered planets, are going to give you 1 victory point. And this card actually additionally gives you an additional 4 military for settling red military worlds. So these are going to be worth variable victory points. Those, plus your victory points from your other cards, plus your victory points that you've acquired in token form, will determine who wins the game. So that's a very quick and easy overview of Race for the Galaxy. I didn't show you all of the iconography, but what I hope you were able to see is that it's really not that difficult to understand. There's a few symbols you need to get down. You need to know that round equals a planet, that a diamond equals a development, that an eyeball means you get to look at a card, and that a hand surrounding a card means you need to draw or keep a card. Actually, it means you need to keep, not to draw. There's more iconography than that, but it really all bases itself around that, and it's really not that hard to understand. Essentially, you're choosing actions in secret, you're playing those actions, and whoever chose the action gets a benefit from it, and then afterwards you're going to play cards at the table and then start a new round by choosing new secret actions. It's really not that hard, but there's a nice level of intricacy to it that definitely caters to experienced players. So as you first start out, you're going to realize you don't know much about what's going on. But the more you play it, the more you're going to learn, and the more elegant the game is going to see, the more you're going to be able to try and build combos, the more you're going to be able to try and sift through the deck in order to find a card that you may want, and the better you're going to understand the different ways to win the game. So, with all that said, I think Race for the Galaxy is a fantastic game. I've played with the designer, and he showed me just how awful I really was, but I still enjoy it, and that's really the mark of a great game. I can lose and still think, man, what could I have done better? I really enjoyed myself, but next time I'd really like to get that edge and win. So, if you're a big fan of strategic card games, you're looking for something that you can play over and over again to try and develop experience and a strategy for long-term play, check out Race to the Galaxy. I think it's probably one of the best options you're going to find.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Yeah?